My name is Caden Lanham, and this is my presentation on CTE and why you should be aware. Who is this man you see on the screen, and why does he matter at all? Well, his name is Aaron Hernandez, of which some of you may have heard about. He was a tight end for the New England Patriots during the 2010 through 2013 seasons. He played in college football for the Florida Gators, winning the BCS National Championship, and was part of a strong tight end duo formed between himself and the most famous Rob Gronkowski. However, he wouldn't come to be so well known or so famous due to the things that he did on the field, but rather his choices and decisions off the field. In 2013, Aaron Hernandez killed the boyfriend of his fiance's sister, Odin Lloyd, who was a semi-pro football player. He was found guilty of first-degree murder in 2015 and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. 5 days after being acquitted of a separate double homicide case, Aaron Hernandez took his own life in his prison cell. Now you may be asking yourself, what could drive a man to commit such heinous acts despite having almost everything that he could wish for in his life with his family, his career, etc.? Well, it was discovered that in his autopsy, after his death, Aaron Hernandez had a very, very severe case of CTE. But what is CTE exactly? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a progressive degenerative disease affecting people who've suffered repeated concussions and traumatic brain injuries. It's mostly found in football players, combat sport athletes, and military members. But the tricky thing about CTE is that it cannot be diagnosed or discovered in those that are living. Only through autopsy can CTE be diagnosed. Well, if that's the case, how can we treat CTE? Well, if there's no way to diagnose CTE, that also means that right now there's no way to treat it. However, there are signs and symptoms that are observed in those that might have CTE, and these include cognitive deficits, memory loss, irritability, aggression, impulse control issues, and mood changes. Now on the screen, you will see two modern-day examples of possible athletes with CTE, or who are at risk of developing CTE. First, the football player is Tua Tagovailoa, starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. He's suffered multiple concussions already in his career, in his short career, and with his most recent concussion occurring September 12th of this year. Now in the second photo of him, you can see kind of a strange hand gestures of him putting them up to his face. What that actually is known as the fencing position, or is an involuntary muscle spasm that occurs whenever one has suffered very severe brain trauma, or in his case, multiple concussions. And the second example below him is Tony Ferguson, a veteran MMA fighter for the UFC. At a time, he was once on top of the world, but is now 40 years old and has lost his 8 last fights in a row. The problematic thing about Tony, though, is that his wife has previously filed a restraining order against him, claiming he has psychotic episodes and paranoid behavior, which has endangered both her and their son. Now, the thing about both of these athletes is that this new behavior within both of them isn't native and it's not original to them. It's very new and it's very worrisome, which has caused a lot of fans, supporters, coaches, etc. to call for their immediate retirement, because in the sports world, they all know the dangers of CTE. What does CTE do to the brain physically? Now I want to go back to Aaron Hernandez for this next example. On the left is the autopsy brain of a normal 27-year-old, while on the right, that is the brain of the 27-year-old Aaron Hernandez during his autopsy. Now, as you can see, the arrows indicate atrophy of the fornix, a major discrepancy between the two brains. Now, atrophy is defined as deterioration of any living tissue, and the fornix is the central part of the brain that is responsible for memory and cognition. However, not shown in the diagram, Aaron Hernandez's frontal lobes were also significantly deteriorated, and the frontal lobes are in charge of decision-making and problem-solving. And this diagram really goes to show that this wasn't a 90-year-old man's brain. This was the brain of a 27-year-old. And CTE can really take a huge toll on the brains of many people. However, there is a promising future in the world of CTE research. Steve Jordan, Derek Kennard, and Ray Perkins, all retired NFL players, volunteered to take place in a study to possibly detect CTE in the living. This study was conducted in 2018 by a company called TGen, in which each participant gave urine, blood, and saliva samples to detect biomarkers indicating CTE, as well as completing a 100-question questionnaire about their time in the NFL as well as their life after the NFL. It's through research like this that we can take comfort in knowing that we are getting one step closer every single day to discovering a final solution to this terrible disease. With that being said, I hope that you can all understand the importance of taking care of your brain and your overall brain health, because at the end of the day, you only get one. What happens to your brain, there is no fixing, and it is irreversible damage. Now, I don't expect all of us to become NFL players or MMA fighters at that, but the fact of the matter is that brain trauma can happen at any point in our lives at any time. So once more, protect your noggin and ensure that you live a life free from CTE. Thank you.